So apparently the Veritas American Pravda is now doing a series on the New York Times. James O'Keefe says that they are considered a gold standard at this time, but I nailed them back in June. I went to a protest in late May, and then in early June, this article came out from the New York Times, and I nailed it on my blog at the time, and now I'm doing this video to talk to you about it. So, first, the New York Daily also did a misshapen, shall we say, story about the protest I had attended, and so several of the details overlapped, and then the New York Times used some of the same details and reported them wrongly. Because in their article, they state that a small group of demonstrators chanting "Make America Great Again" surrounded and roughed up a 19-year-old counter-protester named Heather Morris. So on the weird instinct that I was actually thinking, oh, maybe Heather Morris is this protester that makes troubles at protests all the time. So I went ahead and Googled her, wondering if her name was going to come up that way. And what I found... So yeah, I Googled her, and I ended up finding a gold mine. This is not a 19-year-old girl at all. It's a 30-year-old actress from Glee. And during the protest, there was actually a point when Pamela Geller had said, "Those lily white girls over there," and she was talking about this girl. So, it gets better. So she says, "They tried hitting me with their fists, their sticks, whatever they found," Morris said after the fracas on East 42nd Street at 2nd Avenue. "They're a bunch of Nazis. They probably targeted me because I'm young and I'm brown, too." Brown? Excuse me? Heather Morris? You're not brown! I mean, her best friend is brown. Her best friend is Naya Rivera, who's Hispanic. But they used Heather Morris's name, so did they talk to Naya and she gave them her friend's name? Or did they actually talk to Heather Morris? And seriously, I do not buy for a second. I can't prove it, but I don't buy for a second that these, I think I'm so cool, I'm up on everything, journalist for something like the New York Times, I don't buy for a second that they don't know who a Glee actress is. I mean, I don't really get into pop culture and watch TV shows. I watch some, but I think people like that probably watch a lot of these shows, and they probably knew full well who she was. In fact, I'm wondering if she even, made a contact based on that somehow. Even if they were actually talking to Naya, and Naya lied about her name, they're both 30, and this person didn't even bother to Google their names. Although, I believe that they knew who they were. And I'm not naive. I didn't do this being naive, but I wrote to the New York Times because I was like, maybe someday somebody will come along, like Mr. O'Keefe here, who can actually say something to the New York Times, because I actually told them that they were lying about this person's age, and of course they didn't fix it. Well, of course they're not going to fix it, because they're going to look at me and they're going to say she's not a threat. But the fact is, this just proves that they had been notified, that they had a blatant error. To say that a 30-year-old is a teenage girl, that's a blatant error. But, saying she's a 30-year-old woman doesn't quite go as well with the narrative that they were pushing. The narrative they were pushing was that Bass Stickman was fighting with a teenage girl. And don't get me started on fighting, because Bass Stickman was just getting into a screaming match. I mean, I guess technically that's fighting, but they were trying to make it seem like he went around beating up like little 13-year-old girls or something, when in fact he just got into a screaming match with two grown women who were protesting on behalf of communists, who stuck their middle finger in my face, and I was just walking by, who tried to steal people's American flags, who were giving everyone problems the whole protest. Like the article says, Kyle Chapman expected he might find a fight, and he did with a teenage girl. He got in an argument, and they weren't teenage girls. They were grown adults. The so-called teenage girls that Kyle Chapman got into a fight with were Heather Morris and Naya Rivera, 30-year-old women. And, I mean, he got into an argument with them. He called them commies. They are commies. They were protesting on behalf of the Communist Party. Heather even told somebody, yeah, we're affiliated with CPUSA, Communist Party USA. And I'll leave all the relevant links in the comments below.